All right. Let me get the YouTube URL. Oh, right here. Cool. Copy. And gotta send this over here. Stewart. Boom. There he goes. Make sure I'm on Skype here. And where are you at? Okay. All right. Yep. Hello.
Hey.
How's it going?
Pretty good. Got yourself?
Pretty good. So, I want to actually, let's see. Oh, I forgot to turn off the, ha! Give me 1 second. I want to go back and do, I want to cover over the highlight color that we did, because I'd rather, airbrush one more highlight on top.
Okay.
So, the face is okay. But I did this work like right on the chest, and I'm just gonna go back with the lighter gray color and just cover that up.
Pardon? Repeat that one more time, please.
I'm gonna go back with the Tempest gray and cover up where we added the white. Because I just feel like that was a little bit too harsh of a highlight. And I may actually add a little bit of that military blue back. But essentially what I want to do is do like a sort of warmer gray highlight, because I was looking at it and it's like, you know, if the idea was that we were going to try and do a sort of more like colorful look, then we should probably try something a little bit different. So that's what we'll do. Okay. Alright, so that'll be fine. I don't think that's too terrible. But yeah, it was just going to be too harsh. I didn't think it would look very good.
So what did they end up doing?
Who?
AT&T.
Oh, they were like, someone was just like in there on our, I guess at the end of the street or something, like messing with the lines. And so they were just doing some kind of maintenance. So yeah, I mean, like, because when I called or when I looked or whatever, it said there was a service thing going on, and so if it says that, then there's nothing really you can do other than wait. Oh great, I left crap in my airbrush this whole time. Whoops. But what I would like to do is take that Tempest gray and mix it up with some of the tan skin. And we will apply that as a little airbrush highlight, pretty much where we had the Tempest gray before.
What proportion?
I'm thinking, well, let me actually put it in here first, and then I'll have a better idea of what I'm thinking. Okay, so, and then the tan skin, because we don't want it to like turn greenish or anything weird. But I'm thinking, maybe 50-50 will be okay. Something around that. I might have a little bit lighter color. Let me get some of the thinner in here. Oh, right here. Okay. There we go, yeah. So yeah, pretty much 50-50. And then let's see, I'll give mine a shot here. Yes, perfect. That's exactly what I was looking for. So, just very gently, pretty much directly on top of where we had the Tempest Gray before.
So so it's like a peachy gray.
Yeah.
I guess if you would call that color.
Warm taupe, I believe.
One coat.
Mm-hmm.
We're doing like a 25%.
Yeah.
Where should this fall on the halves of the wrist?
Literally, so like I just did the edges, like where we had the highlight.
Okay.
Okay, so I'm gonna clean that out. And we will need the airbrush because we're gonna go back in for some shadow.
Okay. What about on the? Oh, you did the chest. Never mind.
Yeah, I pretty much did everything we had done previously. Alright.
Okay.
And then I'm going to get some clear blue for our first little pass of shadows. Okay. And so I'm trying to decide like how we want to do this. So I'm thinking, so I'm going to do the left armpit area and the left portion of the chest, but definitely watch until I'm done first.
Okay.
So kind of like that. And then I'm going to do the same thing on the left side of the leg, but obviously the big hammer's in the way, so I'm going like underneath the hammer.
Do for the ketchup.
Okay, so we got that. Okay. What was that? So I did sort of the left side of the top of the helmet, the left side of the interior portion of the body, the arm. I did the bottom side of the hammer. Towards the back of the right shoulder, I did the like edge of it, and then I also did the shadow that we did on the hammer hand as well. So essentially, the left-hand side of our view, right? So the hammer side of the body, it's all coming from that direction from below with blue. And then we're going to do a auburn shadow, exact same thing with auburn shadow on the right-hand side.
Okay.
Because we want two competing color temperatures. Okay. Alright. I had way too much of the blue in there for sure. Alright, so then Auburn Shadow.
I'm surprised you're using this color, Josh.
Really? I mean, I know. I said I was going to give it up, but I have a problem, you know?
That Russ Brown.
Yeah, we're cheating on Russ Brown. Okay. I've got some gunk in here. I shouldn't have done what I just did. All right, so Auburn Shadow. Oh yeah, this is gonna look so good. All right, cool.
You gotta be careful. A yellow versus the tool.
Yep. Awesome. Okay, I'm gonna do a little bit more.
I get it.
You get it? Alright, we got that. Clean that out. Now then, I do want to do, so essentially what we'll end up doing is we'll end up tinting with a green at some point, and then we'll also probably end up tinting with like a magenta or maybe a yellow, but that will be done once we kind of do like our traditional edge work and stuff like that. So this is kind of like our base coloring to set the tone for the shadows and everything, and then we'll go back and like shift all the colors around, but that'll be after we do more brush work. So that'll be the plan-o. Alright, that should be good. Turn that off. Okay. So, unless I am mistaken, we should be able to just use Tempest Gray to do pretty much all of our edges on everything. And then we'll go back with a brighter color to actually do like our highlighting, but this will be our first step. I need to get more of it, for sure. All right. luckily, this guy is big enough to where all of this shouldn't be too difficult. Now we will go back and do some like gold or something, some other secondary metallic color, but we don't have to worry about that right now. I'm guessing like the faces that are in his armor and stuff will do like a bronze or gold.
You know, it must be getting better because I had like almost 0 corrections on those guys, on the Union soldiers.
Oh, that's good. Yeah, those should be relatively not quick, right? But they should be a little bit faster too for you now.
Yeah, I'm almost done with 2, 4, 6, 8. I've got 10 left.
Nice.
And I blew out 8 yesterday.
Okay, we'll deal with the helmet here later because since he has cone spikes, the highlight's a little bit odd, but we'll get to it. Okay. This reminds me of all the gold non-metallic metal I did last night for the Patreon stuff. We were doing nothing but our edge highlights.
A lot?
Yeah, I mean, it was like every little object got highlighted up last night. I mean, I think it looks really good. But so, similarly, right, to the way that I tinted the gold on this guy, like, that's kind of the direction I want to move into for doing the metals that we're doing now. But you just do that towards the end after you do all of, like, your edges and everything. Okay, so those won't really pick up, so we gotta go over here. Let's see, so the weapon... highlight up. So the, like, sort of weird, spiny hook end of it we'll do with the regular highlight color. And then only, like, a couple of the different parts of it we'll do in the gold. Hey Trash, how's it going? we're probably going to end up spending more time on this little hook back end of the hammer just because it's a cool opportunity to do some highlighting. But for now, easiest thing to do is just do all of the edges on it. I am doing the interior edge, so I don't know if you noticed, of every like little plate layer.
Okay.
But that's mostly just to like keep the shape going wherever the colored shadow, like the blue, sort of pops in. We won't continue it all the way. Okay, so
What about the spine on each shield?
yeah, so I'm doing every single possible like raised edge.
Okay.
Yeah, every single one. And then to make it even worse, we're gonna do this. So I'll go ahead and do one so you can see what I'm talking about. So I also want us to do the volume highlight that, because they kind of bulge in the center, so it's kind of like this. Let's see. Now I know this is gonna be annoying, but this is gonna look so good by the time it's done. So you'll see it's kind of like a straight edge next to where that curve begins, and then it tapers up to the right. And obviously it's going to change like the further away from that middle part you get to, but it should look really good. So I'll do the next little layer over.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Because they're like bowed a little bit.
Yeah, I just wasn't paying attention. I was paying.
Now then, the only one that is completely different, because like every section pretty much is the same, you'll just follow that edge. The only one that you're not going to do that to is right down the center, the very closest one on the bottom to sort of like the little rimmed edge that there is. That one is casting a shadow directly down the center. So instead of highlighting the middle, you actually highlight the edge. I just did it on camera though, so it will make sense. But it's completely inverted compared to everything else we've done so far. All the other ones are the same though. That's the only one that's like the opposite highlighting. Oh yeah, this is gonna look so cool. Oh my gosh, how exciting. And what's funny too, like the 3D print before, like you can't really tell that those are bowed out on the render or anything. So it's exciting now to kind of see like the different shape that we're gonna be able to get out of it, because you kind of couldn't tell. Okay. How would this have gone if this was like our first lesson together back in the day?
Terrible.
I'm like, all right, here we go. We're gonna do it. You'd be like,
I don't understand. Why are you doing that? That doesn't make sense.
all valid reactions. I like how I still have a rogue support right there. I didn't chop off. That's fine. Yeah. I have like a little little piece of a support popping out on the side of this thing. But mine, the one that I have was the first time I printed it to test it out, and then yours is the second time. So like, this one is not as nice as the one you're working on. On the left-hand side of the hammer, facing us, the highlight, so it's the same, but it goes absolutely,
opposite, right?
No, so it's not, well, it's not mirrored, so it's still coming from the left because it's tilted a little bit to the right.
Okay.
So, it's literally the exact same highlighting, like, shape that we had. I mean, you'll see it. I just did it on camera. So, hold on. I'll zoom in for you. So, it's like the left-hand edge of the spine is what we're highlighting. So, if you look at it from straight on, it's all reflecting from the left. Trash says, actually, the light would reflect. All right, Trash, your name is now Trasharama the Brown, and you are the bearer of arrogance in my chat. So that is now your new persona. You are required to find inaccuracies. That is now your job. And don't worry, it's very skilled trolling is what he's doing right now. All right, so I got that, and then obviously the highlight goes up. Now the center portion underneath that band is also going to be gray, so I'll go ahead and begin that. This section isn't like crazy. It should just kind of make sense based on how the airbrush has fallen, but I'll go ahead and do it. Shadow Silk. Yeah, so I have Elgu Saturns. Now, this wasn't printed, or rather, I should say, I didn't clean this with clean IPA. So this print's a little bit rougher than usual, just because it got a dirty bath. But, yeah, I have Saturns, and then I also have a Mars 2. Which is exactly the same as the Mars 2 Pro. It just doesn't have a built-in filter, and it has like a slightly shorter height in the build volume. That's it. Only difference. So if you are going to purchase a printer, the Saturns are nearly impossible to find. But unless you plan on printing huge stuff or a ton of stuff, you don't need anything like that. You can be A-okay. Ooh, this weapon's looking so cool. All right. The shape reminds me of something too. I can't figure it out. Oh, maybe it's kind of insecty, right? Like the back of a bee or a hornet. A little stinger. Okay. Side.
Special nose picker.
Oh, it's a nose picker? Yeah. A golem Q-tip. Alright, I'm going to take the Tempest Gray and highlight the bottom convex shape here in the center. The alcohol bath have an overall surface effect. Yeah, so like these little blemishes that are on the chest right there, that's just from dirty alcohol. But yeah, this is looking like the promo renderings. Oh yeah, it's funny. But so, I mean, like this, by comparison, is super clean. Actually, I have an example of like all the different ways, really quick, I can show you that so this is a super clean print, clean alcohol bath. There is like no blemishes on it, super clean. Then sometimes, if it's dirty, you can get, oh, I thought this had a little bit of white. Maybe not. Hold on. Was I crazy? Sometimes you'll see like some white residue in oh, this has some actually. Let's see. So like this white residue right here is essentially like semi-dissolved particles of resin that gets wet in the IPA if you cure it too soon. But that doesn't actually like remove detail or anything. That's just you pulled it out of the printer, washed it, and then put it into the curing station too quickly. Oh, look, I just noticed a support right here. Bye-bye. But yeah, the alcohol can have different effects. I like how Rob is trying to say in the chat what I've already said out loud. Alright, so I'm doing the bottom side of these. Because, yeah, if you're getting, like, actual sort of, like, dusty grain or whatever, that's just dirty alcohol. If you're seeing white, it's just you did it too quickly. You didn't let stuff dry. Oh, you typed it before I said it? Okay. I guess you win today. You're smarter than me. There you go. Alright, so I've got those highlights in there. I'll continue on, though, before we go any brighter, so I'm just going to start doing the other parts of the body. And I am out of our gray. Now, we can go ahead and do these chains. Now, I want to make the chains dirty, but I will use this same gray to highlight the top edges. I want to, like, rust the chains up and stuff, but we may as well go ahead and highlight them up. Everything's going to be pretty similar, at least at this stage, just because he's wearing a ton of armor. That's it. Yeah, all right. Greetings from the Czech Republic. Hello, hello. What time is it over there? Is it the early morning or late evening? I would assume either super late evening or morning. Or maybe not early. I don't know. I mean, I know my buddy in Japan usually is, he wakes up at around 5 p.m. here. So I guess morning? Okay. Now then, before going brighter past this stage, I do want to base coat all the stuff that we're going to do in like whatever, you know, kind of goldy bronze we do. So I'm going to use rust brown so we can just wash our way down. Since we can't really airbrush it, we'll use that to kind of cheat.
Okay.
But, so I'll just be base coating that whenever if you're catching up or doing whatever. No real craziness. But yeah, I'm essentially going to do like all the trim on the armor, any of the accessories that have the faces and things like that. Oh, 11 p.m., so late night. Okay, cool. Yeah, I would assume where you are is sort of a midway point between here and then my only other knowledge of strange time zones in Japan, so... Right. It's funny too, is the level of contrast is going to change visually for us once we start layering in the or laying down rather the rust brown here, just because everything has been so similar up to this point. Ugh, my least favorite thing a sculptor can ever do. So on the wrist guards, if you look up like where it ends and it is connecting to like the sleeves of the shirt, I hate it whenever they just leave like a huge, gigantic flat surface like that because it just doesn't make any sense. You can't like shade it. Like they could have sculpted like a little, you know, edge there that would make sense with the size of the bracer, but little lazy. Only a little lazy. But, I mean, I guess you can't really see it. You can only see it... I mean, yeah. You can only see it from above, but it still doesn't make sense.
Yeah, but, you know, once you finish adding everything in, it'll probably disappear.
Well, yeah, once we... Because if we shade it down, too, right, like we're going to, it'll... You know, it won't draw attention or anything, but... I forget what used to be really bad about... I think, like, 40K models used to be terrible about that. They've gotten a little bit better with their more recent work, but yeah, they used to just like leave these huge chunks of just flat edges. But obviously too, depending on the like that more has to do with plastic production than anything else. 3D printed minis, you can get around that. For getting that, wait, do you think 3D print will ever become the norm for getting them? Well, do you mean like companies? I mean, so specifically in miniatures, I mean, I see 3D printers being not necessarily the norm, but I definitely see them being like the same as someone buying an airbrush. So I feel like eventually, you know what? Let's do this entire plate. So on the shoulders, the lip that's underneath the 3 plates, I'm gonna do that rounded edge on the inside too. You'll see it on camera, but
Okay.
but yeah, I feel like eventually 3D printers, because right now, like, so if you're gonna buy an airbrush and a booth and all the accessories you need, you're easily spending $300 to $400, right? And if you are looking at a 3D printer and you want high quality prints, you don't need anything fancy. Like I said, you can buy like a Mars 2, and you would buy that, the accessories you need, and spend $300, right? So it's essentially the same investment as an airbrush. The only difference is, you know, like the easiness of like troubleshooting issues or supporting miniatures and things like that. So that's stuff that you do have to figure out on your own. And it's different, like every time you print something, every file you do is different. Like that's what is the like difficult part about 3D printing. So I mean, yeah, it's already cheap enough, and for miniature people, it only makes sense. Now a couple years ago, when resin, like when the Photon came out and stuff like that, the original Mars, whatever, I don't think that was really a point in which it really made sense. But the price point, the variety, the fact that the prints are just better, they're more dynamic, like the posing and the sculpts and all that stuff, that will beat out traditional miniatures for sure, just on cost and everything. So, and then when it comes to materials, the materials are getting better all the time. They'll get cheaper the more, you know, they can produce and the more people are ordering it. So, you know, I would say within 5 years it will be insanely common, and it'll just be what it is. Well, Trash, so there's already, like, I already have 2 games that's exactly how it works. So Titan Forge put out Bloodfields, and they also put out Grid Wars, both of which are tabletop skirmish games that you print the entirety of the miniatures. So, you know, while the market's not there right now for sure, I need to repaint that section. It's, you know, like in terms of wide availability. But yeah, I could see that becoming more common. You know, another good example would be the guys that do, what is that? What is that game? Arc World. There you go. So Arc World is similar to Moonstone. It's a UK like boutique skirmish miniatures game, and they do hand sculpting. And then the person that did all the hand sculpting for the miniatures also picked up 3D sculpting. He's the guy that made the game and does all that too. And so now he releases files for that that you can get and print on your own, and then that's what ends up being cast in resin and sold as units in the game. So, you know, if I had to guess, it's only grown his business, even though the second you release a 3D file, it will end up on a Chinese or a Russian Telegram group, right? Like, you just have to assume that's going to happen. And obviously these companies and Kickstarter, and like, obviously these 3D printing Patreons that are making over $100,000 a month, like Titan Forge, their stuff is pirated all day long, every day, right? You could probably go to Google, search any month that they have, and like STL free download or something, and you can probably find it, right? But they're making over 100,000 a month, so it's obviously not hurting their pocketbook. So I see that being a potential, if you're a company that has completely vertically and horizontally integrated, right, like Games Workshop is, releasing STLs currently is probably not a smart idea for you, just because they've invested so much in their infrastructure. It would make sense for them to abandon it and just start selling files. But
they're going to be forced, don't you think?
yeah, so like companies like Reaper are small enough. Privateer Press, if they want to save their company, they should start doing STLs, because everybody knows Privateer Press is on the way out.
No inventory cost. I mean, you limit your inventory.
Right, and that way too, you can experiment more. You know, like Reaper will only produce like a certain style of miniatures because that's like, you know, kind of what's always worked for them. And the Bones 5 Kickstarter, the dragons specifically, are sculpted in a more modern way. And that was one of the highest selling things. And it tells them, okay, we need to start sculpting in this style versus like, you know, the old school Julie Guthrie style, things like that. So it allows them to, and in that instance, right, just because it was a Kickstarter, it's safer for them to take those chances because, you know, they'll be able to get enough orders in that will fund the production. So, you know, I think it's better for companies that already make millions of dollars a year, right, to do these like test runs or special releases or whatever. Even Bombshell Miniatures does it, right? Bombshell Miniatures, Patrick Keith, small company, cast in metal and resin, and now all of a sudden he's doing a Patreon releasing sculpts and STLs. He already does digital sculpting, right? So he's cutting his production cost, his inventory cost, everything, and instead, he's already spending his time sculpting to then turn it into a physical product. So he's just making money directly off of that for his time. So it makes sense to me. I feel like anyone that is sort of like a smaller business in general, it only makes sense for them to start doing digital releases and things like that. And not because, like everybody and their mom has a printer, but to be available in that space, have a catalog available, right? Because let's say you start a Patreon with files and someone joins a year later, well, they're going to want your old stuff. So websites like My Mini Factory, things like that are really smart. But yeah, I mean, it'll happen. Like, there's no question it'll happen because the miniatures that I can print at 20 microns literally look like plastic. So there's no difference. Like, from a competition angle, I would rather print something at 20 microns and paint it for a competition piece than I would, like, spend $100 on, like a traditional resin miniature, because I'd rather spend $2 in resin than $100. It may just make sense. So, but yeah, in a world where like the Elgu Saturn, or even the Elgu, what's the next one? The Jupiter is the big one that they're doing with the deeper pixel density. I mean, those are insanely valuable for people that play D&D, any games like that, because literally, you can be like, all right, this weekend we have an encounter and they're going to fight like 15 goblins and a boss and like this weird monster, and you can sit down and literally print all of them in one go in like 4 hours. So like it, from a gaming perspective in general, it just makes so much more sense. Even though it can be a pain in the ass. And, you do have, like, toxic waste and alcohol and all that good stuff. It makes sense. Alright, so I'm doing all of the details here on the hammer. Carefully. And I think we're going to do a, like, one of the darker purple washes on this stuff and not just, like, the strong tone. Because it should go well.
Hey, your audio's dropping in and out for me.
Oh, really? Okay, hold on. I know why. I'll kill this music. We don't need it. That's probably what it is. If I had to guess. So I've kicked that off. But yeah, we'll do like a deeper purple on this stuff. And it should, seeing as how we've used a red and a blue, right? It should make sense visually. Hopefully. And then let's do the spike on this too. Oh, it's gonna look so cool. I don't know what color to do the fur. We'll decide that at some point. Okay. How's a... Did you have to get a cast or anything for your son?
Oh, he got a splint that he has to wear for 4 weeks. So it was like I'm forgetting the word now. It was a fracture that didn't go all the way through.
Okay. Like a, yeah, I don't know the term actually.
They call it something other than a hairline fracture.
A compound fracture?
No,
Okay.
that's a nasty.
Yeah, that's the only other fracture term I know. Um, to answer your question, J Basic, this is 100%. This is the normal size. He's a big boy.
So it's hampering his game plan.
Right.
A little bit.
Losing precious game time. He can't be a Viking. Okay.
You know, I found you had mentioned, since I've been building those ships about the 3D printing.
Mm-hmm.
And so I found, I guess I should have asked you, I found this site, it's like Monkey. I don't know why they're all called Monkey, but it must be the same people. And so they print these much more detailed ship parts. Like the conning towers and stuff.
Right.
So I'm interested to see how I've got a little carried away. So.
Oh God, you ordered. Well, I'm sure they'll be cool. They'll probably just be like, the other resin stuff.
Well, they shut the site down. I guess for the same issues you were having. I guess people were ordering too much.
Yeah.
And so they opened it back up. So I put in my order. So we'll see how long it takes.
Yeah, that's the hard part. Like, because I had 4 orders come in all on the same day. So, like, I immediately went from being at, like, totally normal processing time to, like, ooh, this is going to take me, 2 weeks. Or, like, if I have any issues or anything like that. So, very quickly. And then sometimes, too, it also depends on, like, one person's order I finished up today. It was 5 miniatures that including, so remember the griffin we painted, the 3D printed griffin?
Yeah, that was pretty awesome.
So I printed that one as a part of this order, and I've never printed any of them before, and they were all a success. So, like, that's great, right? So, like, first time success on them. I know the files are good, so that's fun. But then somebody else's order had a file that, like, failed in a weird part, like the arm didn't work, so then I changed the supports on the second try, and then a different part didn't work, and then finally the third time it worked just fine, right? So,
It's not in my case. Somebody stole it.
Who stole Skreek? Or whatever his name was.
One of my kids or my wife did.
And what are they using them for? Why would it just disappear?
They put it in there.
Oh, that's funny.
I mean, they just, I did a beholder, like back in the day, that looks like shit. One of those WizKid ones, and my wife stole it. So I took it's not hot glue, it's that other rubbery glue.
Mod Podge?
But it's, let me look at it. And I made all the spit.
Oh, okay.
UHU. It's some Greek. All-purpose universal adhesive.
Huh.
And so I did all the spittle.
Spittle.
Okay, knees.
That's blue. What the hell? Yeah, I did the knees.
What about the buckle?
Yeah. Yeah. Alright, so now I'm getting the clear purple. And And I'm hoping the clear purple is actually dark enough to just be fine on its own. And it may be. So I'm just going to make a wash out of it. Okay. Is everything dry? It looks pretty dry. Yeah, this should work just fine. Just be a little careful not to get it everywhere. Oh, I didn't do the giant head on his back. Whoops. Do that real quick. Okay. Are they talking about going on vacation for spring break?
Oh yeah, they're in chemo right now.
Cool.
Dumbasses.
Cool, dude. State's open. Woo! Oklahoma did the same thing today, and our criminal governor gave a speech, and he was like, we're going to go back to normal in Oklahoma, and normal in Oklahoma is freedom. And he's like, freedom to worship, freedom to go to work. Like, he said all this dumb, like, it's so funny. Pretty much, he was like, oh, we haven't been free this entire time, and, now we're free again. And his whole argument is that we can't wait until there are 0 cases in Oklahoma to, like, open up. But the biggest joke, right, is that we haven't been closed. Businesses have been operating at full capacity for months, right? So the whole idea here is because people have been mad at him because of unemployment and all this other stuff that's getting cut. Like, he's cutting the social, or like the...
Over here.
Do what?
Look at the bird over here in my other hand.
Yeah, well, yeah, exactly. And so then he also knows, right, that like all these businesses are hurting, and it's not because they've been closed. It's because people just aren't going in public, right? Like, everyone's like, I'm not going in public because it's not safe, and people can't get vaccinated. So in his mind, everyone's about to get $1,400, and so he's like, oh, everything's open, it's all safe, go spend this money. So then that way he can then take credit for like the bump in the economy that the state gets from people spending their money, right? But the joke is that it's just going to go to landlords, right? Like, it's not going to actually do that. But man, I mean, he has been so cool. But yeah, if you want to come visit, dude, pandemic's over. Less than 10% of the population is vaccinated, so feel free to come up. It's totally safe.
Well, now 50-year-olds can get the vaccine here.
Oh, well, now school kids can get it here, and people that just work at retail shops. Like, what's funny is their metric is literally, like, it's not based on how many people they've vaccinated so far. It's how long they've been allowing people to get vaccinated. So, like, okay, we're going to let this group of people do it for 3 weeks. It doesn't matter how many people do it, but they have 3 weeks of it just being them, and then they open it up to the next group. Makes no sense. But at least they're not like Texas, where the AG is threatening to sue cities that have mandates, because like Oklahoma City's mask mandate is still valid, right? Like he's not punishing individual towns like the Texas AG is, but
I'm surprised Mayor Turner hadn't done that here.
It's crazy. I mean, what I don't understand, right, is like, without getting too deep, one party definitely is not about big government, and they're about like local government. So it confuses me when the local government is like, no, you're not allowed to make your own decisions. It's like, oh, okay, cool.
No, you're not allowed to make your own decisions if you're going to give a shit about Endicott. I mean, ERCOT.
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah, it's funny. I mean, I mean, I don't really like everybody that I know that I care about is vaccinated now in Texas, luckily. But you know, like I'm sure Reaper's concerned because they're like, "Hey, we're gonna have this convention," and now they're like, "Oh God, what? Why did you just do that?" But yeah, we'll see. I've talked to a few people that have like been to Reaper for like the last 10 years or ReaperCon, and they're not going. So it'll be interesting to see like what it actually looks like.
When's it supposed to be?
September. They may have 20% of everybody vaccinated by then. Oh, I did have a friend get the Johnson and Johnson shot. That's the first person I know.
And
Pretty much just painful arm. I'm assuming they're gonna be sick tomorrow, if I had to guess. But they're a senior citizen, so we'll see how they react to it. Okay. I'm having to be so careful not to get this all over the gray.
at least it cools nicely.
Yeah.
There's some nice hard edges for to get the capillary effect.
Capillary. What?
I guess that's what you call it, right?
I don't know, man.
Or what's the scientific term for why the washes go down into the crevices? Isn't that what it is? Capillary effect?
It sounds like you're probably describing a physics term, and I took biology, so
Okay.
that's not the side that I know. But could very well be. Yeah, everything. What's interesting too, so the sculptor from RNE, it's very weird because like they will do these really cool, just whatever, right? So like the hammer, the back of the hammer is very like sharp and has cool edges and all that good stuff. But then when it comes to a sword, instead of actually having a sharp edge, they will intentionally do a very skinny flat edge. And the reason why they do that is so that they can attach supports to them correctly. And what's annoying with that is that when it gets scaled up, then you're stuck with like a ballooned flat edge. So that's like the dwarf that we painted that took like a year to get to you. That's a good example because that's an RNE sculpt, and scaled up, that sword like turned soft on the edge, which is odd. But
I mean, the one that I ordered the smallest version by accident.
well, then yours probably doesn't have the soft edge on the sword, but mine did. Mine was very strange. But I also think he was using not as good resin. He was using like just the standard gray. I wish they made like modular parts for some of this because like I would love to be able to print this big axe. I mean, you can dissect models, so I mean I could do it, but like I would love to take, or not axe but hammer, but like I'd love to take this crazy hammerhead and print it separately and then like use it in a conversion or something because I just like the design of it. That's something I haven't explored yet is taking files and chopping them apart to use them separately because you can do it pretty easily. I just literally have never tried it. But yeah, there are people that will create like entire new armies of stuff by just taking different file pieces and shoving them together and printing them that way, which is fun. That I feel like actually, so back to the whole discussion of like where will 3D printing go? I think when it comes to miniatures as well, Hero Forge is a good example. There's also like a couple others. There's like Anvil something, and I forget whatever, where you can like use the graphical interfaces right to make miniatures. Or Eldritch Foundry or something, I don't know. But so those have existed for a little bit. But then another sculptor, Printing Goes Ever On, all he does is Lord of the Rings stuff, and he created his own like web software website deal, right? That does the exact same thing, where you can like modularly put together your Lord of the Rings minis and then print them directly that way. So I feel like if you really want to be consumer friendly, that would be what's really cool, is making some kind of software that's just like shoved full of assets, right? But obviously you're crossing a lot of streams there when it comes to skills skills required, because now you need developers, sculptors, all that good stuff. But there have been a few Kickstarters for programs like that too. I've seen one, I forget what it's called, Monster something, or I forget exactly, but there's one that people are beta testing now that looks pretty cool. Essentially, they just do a traditional 3D file rigged to a skeleton, and then you just pose it however you want. Add accessories. It's cool, I mean, that's so like when it comes to role-playing games specifically, like whenever I'm like thinking of creatures, I always think of them in like an action pose. So I'll be like, oh, okay, so let me think of I don't know, like a hooked horror or something. And I just like imagine one like lurching. Or if I think of an ogre, I think of an ogre like slamming its arm down with like a weapon. And so like my brain always goes to kind of a pose. So it's kind of cool if you're like, oh, I need this kind of miniature. And then you just sort of naturally like make it how you want it. And I think that's pretty neat. But all these things are difficult. My little part on the back, it still isn't dry yet. We gotta make that happen.
I forgot to do that.
Yeah, I did it before I started doing that because I knew. Go ahead and do that, and then we'll just do the shoulders with intense brown. I mean, we'll highlight it up, kind of like a yellowy ochre or something, but we'll just go ahead and base coat that too. We'll get all of our base coating done. Done, finito. Good old intense brown.
What number is it?
Oh boy, where did I just put it? It's 9138.
It helps if you filed it in the right place.
Yeah, I feel like you're the only person I know that has a Dewey Decimal System set up. Actually using the numbers. But it works.
Well, I'd never be able to find anything.
Well, I mean, it works out because I'll literally just be like, I'm grabbing this and tell you the number, and you're like, okay. So yeah, I forget who I was mentioning it to. Maybe it was Kevin from Hulk's Workshop because he has that airbrush lesson with me now, and something. And I was like, well, it's always kind of different, right, between people doing a session because it also depends on your setup or the paint that you have. Like, what we do is now so streamlined because it's like I know you know what I've got, and like we've just got it worked down to where I can just like mention stuff and it works. Yeah, so the disembodied voice is one of my patrons, Stuart, and so like he is painting the exact same thing as me, similar to the Space Wolf. Now he may be quiet. I don't know how loud he's coming through because I have it turned down a little bit on the stream, but so he sounds especially spooky like a ghost. Okay. Now what color should we do for the loincloth? You know, I mean, we could do. Oh, let's do like a really nice blue. That'd be cool. Like kind of like an aqua in the highlight. So let's just hit it with Hmm. What's a good man? I feel like I never use blue for like other than clear blue. I'm digging. I don't want to break anything. I've got breakables. I should paint him next. That'd be fun. Dang. Well. Oh, right here in front. Oh my god, it was right in front of me. Oh, it's empty. Oh, I forgot I spilled this. Okay. All right. Well, I'm just gonna grab oceanic blue, but I think it's the same as Brion. Like you can use Brion blue. I know you have that. Oh, but I don't know the number. I don't know if you have this one. 9418. It's pretty much just a literal normal blue though. So if you have anything that's just
Okay, I know where it is. May need to be mixed for a while. That's the only thing about these paints.
right.
These black, what do you call them?
The bones line.
Yeah.
Now my cloak I should have sanded and I didn't at all, so we're just like gonna pretend it doesn't exist. But I'm also gonna do his cape in the same color.
Okay, I still have to mix it some more.
Yeah, my coverage is crappy. I'm gonna have to do it twice. Very, very crappy. I think that's kind of like the biggest problem I have whenever people are like, oh, you can use the Bones formula paint on Bones miniatures without priming them, because it's like the Bones paints though like don't, depending on the colors, they don't have the same density. So like it's really not going to go well. You're going to have to do like 3 coats.
Well, I guess that's the answer to any one of those deals. Is yeah, it'll cover an unprimed object. It's just the point of how many coats you're going to have to put, right?
Yeah, that is correct. Ooh, man, getting the back of the coat's kind of a joke. So I just took some of that clear purple and mixed it in just to make it darker, and I'm just literally shoving the brush back there just to
Okay.
fake any kind of color that could possibly show through. But it's so dark, I mean, it's completely in shadow, so who's counting? And then I need to wash the top part here. Very cool. I mean, I am very impressed already with where we've gotten, because really we're looking at, so if he's a 2-session guy, right, which is the goal, then highlighting up the final highlights on the silver, relatively easy. And then all we have to do is skin tone plus a brighter color and then glaze all the gold. Pretty simple. Do the cloak, the fur, and then the chains, and that's it. So I mean, we did plenty pretty quickly. Let me wash this down. Oh, you're welcome. Yeah, don't thank me. Thanks, Stuart. Stuart suggested streaming some of the stuff that we work on, because I mean, we've been working together like this for like a year, right? More. And I don't know. I mean, I think maybe we streamed it like one time, or one time I did it when like you had to leave early, and I just kept going. But I think that was the only time.
Yeah, this weekend I have to go back through our old streams to figure out what we used for those horses. I can match colors.
It was
How
funny.
did,
Oh, sorry. Go
how
ahead.
about how that turned out? The paint horse that we did?
Yeah, it looks good.
You still have it?
Yeah, I think it's behind me. Um, it should be. Oh no, it's in my closet actually. Maybe, yeah. So the Vikings, the Union dudes, and the horses are all in my closet currently. What I need to do is reorganize my shelf. That's because I had stuff. I like filled my shelves thinking I was gonna put certain stuff up there, and then now I'm not. So it's just kind of like I could make better use. Now my blue is still wet for sure. So we can probably do the same purple wash on the uh, fur once that's dry, the intense brown. Oh, go ahead and do blue for his sleeves.
Oh, up underneath?
Mm-hmm. The little creases of his elbow. So yeah, one of the printers that I sold, the guy got it yesterday, and it was all good. And so then he started doing some test printing, and like he's like, oh, this little part printed, but this one didn't. And he wasn't like printing miniatures, like he was printing these little cubes because they were really small and just easy way to test it. And so it would print some and not the other, and I'm like, I'm not really sure why it's not working. I mean, he was using different resin than I've ever used, but the settings like should have been just fine. And so then, he sent me like a screenshot of his settings and then a screenshot of the file, and I kind of thought I saw like a shadow on it in a weird place, but I didn't really, I didn't say anything because I was like, well, it's probably just the angle he took the screenshot of, like whatever. So then I like give him, I'm like, all right, we'll try these settings. I don't know, and like when I sold this printer, I definitely did not sell technical printing support. You know what I'm saying? So I'm just like being nice by helping this guy. But um, then all of a sudden he messages me and he's like, oh, I figured out what was wrong. And like he had accidentally moved everything that he was printing like a fraction of a millimeter above the print plate itself. So the only reason it was printing is because he didn't level it evenly, so it was close enough to actually print the file. And I was like, "Oh my god." And so as soon as he realized he did that, he immediately printed something and it's been just fine. But I was sitting there like, "Dude, don't tell me like something happened to this printer when during shipping."
No, I remember you told me you were worried about that.
Yeah. Now he's got it working just fine, so. But yeah, I was like, I don't know what to tell you, man. Like, at a certain extent, there's only so many factors that could be going wrong. Let's make a wash out of Auburn Shadow, and then and it's gonna be pretty thin, right? So like a 2-part water, 1-part Auburn Shadow, and then go ahead and wash that over the chains, because we're gonna make those chains rusty and dusty. Yes, sibling. I sold my. I had bought an Ender 3, and or Ender 3 Pro or whatever, and I ended up selling it because I never took it out of the box. And figuring out 3D printing was such a headache. Like resin printing was such a headache that I was like, man, I don't think I have like the mental capacity to assemble, because it's way. I mean, I already know, right? You have to assemble the FDM printer. You have to do all this stuff, and I'm like, I just don't have the brain power to go for it.
No, I'm on a lesson right now, so no. 5 o'clock. Yes. I will. Bye. Love you.
What's on the dinner menu this evening?
Taco Tuesday.
Stuart, it's Thursday. What's wrong?
Yeah, no, but I couldn't help it.
We had, what did we do? We did tacos the other night that were super good. I can't remember how I prepped them. I started buying these. I found like super thin. So I like street tacos that are I mean, I love fresh flour tortillas done on a skillet, right? And I love buying the ones that aren't cooked and you cook them yourself. Those are really good. But I love the street tacos on a flour tortilla. Sorry, a flour tortilla. Where it's like double wrapped, where you have 2 of them at a time. And I found some at the grocery store that are super, super thin, so you don't feel like you're dying, like eating 2 of them. And we did that, and I believe chicken is what we did for the...
We do like ground turkey and then use that old El Paso.
Mm-hmm.
Just like old school tacos.
Right.
And then get the old El Paso tacos, the flat bottom ones.
Oh, yeah, that stand up.
Because if you heat the other one, they fold over, and then when they cool down, you can't unbend them.
Right.
And it cracks open.
I'm going to add a little bit of black to the blue that we used, and I'm going to do a wash color with that.
Okay.
Actually, I'm adding a lot of black. I added way too much black. Whoops. Okay, hold on. I always forget. I got so used to using noir black, and then I have solid black that I just leave out from the Miniature Monday stuff, and I still have noir black here. So sometimes I grab it instead, and like my brain is never prepared for how much more intense the pigment is. I just always over mix. Yeah, I've thought about donating my original Photon to somebody, but at the same time, like, the problems that I had with it, like, I don't want to have to help someone. Like, both people that bought my printers have, like, asked me generic questions outside of, like, just help. And I'm like, well, is this your, and I know they own other printers, so I'm kind of like, I didn't really expect to have to like hold your hand through this process. And one of them has a shop, and I'm like, how do you have a shop? But I mean, okay, I'll help. But so I would like to donate the Photon to somebody, but at the same time, it literally is such a bad machine compared to others that like I don't want to put somebody through that. It'd be like I'm punishing them.
I'm still pretty wet.
Yeah, I'm gonna airbrush his back to dry it.
All right, I'm gonna get my hair dryer.
Oh no, I got paint. Oh no. I gotta go wash this off really quick. I'm gonna cry if I ruin my beanie. Garrett, you wanna come in here? Garrett, you wanna come in here? Okay. The dog did not want to hang out. Yeah, I just literally dumped. The airbrush still had cleaner and paint in it, and I dumped it on the embroidered beanie I had that says Mini Painting Studios. So I had to go wipe it off. The most expensive beanie I've ever bought, of course. As soon as you want to embroider something, they're like, "Hi, give us $30. I don't care what it is." Okay. Do I have some automated airbrush cleaner machine? No, I just have a pot, like a cleaning pot, so that's what I'm like blowing it into. And then the noise you're hearing is just the compressor, because it was almost empty because I turned it off. Automated airbrush cleaner, all you gotta use is brake fluid and asbestos. You're an idiot if you buy cleaner. Okay. So we got that on there. I saw somebody on Facebook. Man, Facebook literally is just so toxic for me to like see anything in these groups half the time. But the other day I got a good chuckle because I only read the very first part of the sentence of this guy's like huge reply because someone was like, I want to take my painting more seriously and I'm wondering, what brands are good, or like whatever. And one of the immediate first replies was a guy that said, I'm a professional miniature painter and I use the paints from Walmart. And I just stopped right there. Because they're not no, none of that they said is true.
does that go along with I never lie?
Mm-hmm. I'm a professional miniature painter because my friend asked me to paint his D&D character, and so now I just come on the internet and give really terrible advice. As soon as I saw that, I was like, oh god, you're the worst kind of person. Congratulations.
So the correct answer doesn't matter.
Well, the correct answer would just be like anything that has good pigment, right? And because that's how you end up thinning the paint.
Any painting brand.
Essentially, yeah. I mean, anything that has good pigment will be totally fine, because you can use craft paint, right? You just need to make sure it's paint like the Ceram Coat stuff, because it has a lot of pigment and it's pretty cheap, and it works just fine. But the second you literally suggest,
I bought basic paint.
right?
Instead of using a bunch of grays and browns for the bases,
Yeah,
doesn't work.
yeah,
The pigment breaks.
yep. Yeah, as soon as I saw that, I was like, no, See, the problem is like somebody that immediately says something like that on the internet is a person that they are extremely insecure about their painting, and they look at other people and they think, why am I, like, what makes theirs better than mine? Like, it's just someone that's very insecure. And so then what they want is they're like, well, then what they say in their own head is, I do a pretty good job and I don't spend that much money. And so to justify their insecurity, they immediately show up in the comments as soon as they can to be like, it's a waste of money to actually buy any other paint. It's a waste of money. Like, oh, okay, well, you're just convincing yourself here and nobody else. But it just makes me mad, right, when like someone that's new is given that type of advice, because you're setting them up to not like learn as much or be as successful as they could be if they started with better tools, But and it's the same person that's like, why would I buy a painting handle that's $8 when I can use a pill bottle that I already spent $30 on? You know what I mean? Isopropyl. Well, you really shouldn't use alcohol to clean your airbrush. You can use alcohol to like thin paint, but if you're just like soaking it in alcohol, that's not going to end well. Eventually, it will eat. Like if you put alcohol in an ultrasonic cleaner, it will eat all of the actual stainless steel coating, and you'll just be left with the raw brass or whatever it is underneath, and then everything will start to fall apart. Do what?
I said I'll hold my hand up on that one.
Yeah, it'll all start chipping off.
The using an alcohol water mix.
Yeah.
My cup is brass.
Yeah, it will just eat it off immediately. And what's interesting too, right? Using alcohol as a thinner is only the only tangible reason you would use that is if you need it to evaporate as it's hitting the miniature. And the only time you need something to evaporate as it's hitting a miniature is if you're actually putting pigment dust, right? So like a weathering powder through an airbrush, which 9 times out of 10, you should be using an airbrush that has like a 0.5 needle or a 0.7 needle, right? In order to do that, because otherwise those particles, so like even if your airbrush doesn't clog, the pigment will actually eat through the inside of Christian's like super delayed. He must be, I don't know where he's talking from, but he's like talking about basic paints now. But anyway, pigment powder like that will literally eat and etch through the inside of the tooled parts on your airbrush. So, but hey, who cares what I think?
What did he say about basic paint?
It's good for terrain, but any paint is good for terrain. I mean, to an extent.
Yeah, but I guess maybe I thinned it too much.
Are you talking about like basic golden acrylics?
Yes.
Yeah, no, that's very specific. Like that's a whole different ballgame than just buying like craft paint, because that's like economy brand, fine art acrylics. All right, so I added the purple wash to our fur. And I'm tempted. I really want to go back, but I don't want to go back. Because I don't know if we should tint. I feel like we should. Okay, so we are going to use the airbrush one more time.
Okay.
Because and now I feel like we can push the color a little bit more before we do like begin our final edge highlights and stuff.
Okay.
So we're gonna do clear blue again, and then auburn shadow again, and we're just gonna intensify it where we already put it. We just want it to be a little bit deeper. And it should be all right.
Auburn shadow. Clear purple.
So yeah, Christian, I know it's delayed where you're watching. I'm assuming YouTube. But so since you replied, right? Yeah, the older airbrush is showing the brass, right? Because eventually it eats it. Alcohol for me is the only time I would use alcohol is if I have left something in the nozzle and it clogs and dries the nozzle, and then I'm going to clean the nozzle out by using a scraper tool or something like that. That is the only time I would want to use alcohol, just like for cleaning. Now, when it comes to pigment powders and stuff, that's the application. That's just what they tell you to use because it immediately evaporates and then you're just left with the powder. But not always the best. All right, so I'm going to use this to, tint the metallic, or the golds.
Which have you started with?
Do what?
Which,
I'm doing blue first.
oh, blue.
Clear blue. And I'm really just going back to where we've already applied it. I just want it to be more visible. There we go. All right, so I'm going to go back with the auburn shadow next. Cool. Okay. Okay. Let me get the Auburn Shadow. My wet palette has totally dried up. It's so funny. Or it's wet, but it's not like sticking. It needs more water. How funny. I've really been enjoying the Army Painter airbrush stuff, though. It is so good.
Yeah, it keeps me from having. Yes, I like it. I'm sold.
Okay. That looks super cool.
Close.
Right? Yeah, the amount of work we need to do isn't like the physical amount's not crazy. It's just gonna take a while, just because it's edges and stuff. For those of you watching, this miniature is Vulcan from RNEstudios. It is available on my website. You can check that out, minipainting.studios/shop. I am at a higher turnaround, so if you put an order in today, it would probably ship this time next week. So I need pretty much like 5 to 10 business days, depending. I have 4 orders going out tomorrow, right? So assuming I don't get a bunch of stuff over the weekend or tomorrow, whatever, right? It always changes, but so don't be like some people and put in an order and then message me the next day. That's not how that works. All right, let me see. I missed a message here. Okay. All right. So, all right, we've got like 15. So then why don't let's mess with the chains, because that's something small we can actually do.
Okay.
So we've done this recipe before. So we're going to need rust brown, and then we're going to need like a fire orange or something similar. Lava orange can work too.
I have fire orange.
Sweet. And we're just going to not really wash it, right? But fake forcibly wash it into the seams and different stuff to dirty it up to look like rust. Oh no. My brush literally just like betrayed me. There we go. And then, of course, after the rust brown, I'll go back in with the brighter orange, and then we'll highlight up on top, hopefully creating a nice rusty texture.
Are you mixing the? I'm sorry. Are we mixing the fire orange and the rust brown together?
No. So right now I'm just doing straight up rust brown, and then once this is done and sort of dry, I'll go back in to intensify the areas in the recesses with the brighter orange. And then going back with Tempest Gray on top as more of like a stippling highlight, it should end up looking, like rust. Thank you, Christian. Yeah, I haven't mentioned the Amazon link in so long. When I stopped streaming, like, that completely stopped. But that's actually a big help. I mean, the more I stream, I should mention that Amazon link more often because it really does make a big difference for Sydney and I to be able to just buy house stuff through there and all of those good things. I just need to remember to mention it more. I just kind of stopped. That's completely my bad, obviously. Oop, I don't know why I did that. Man, this thing looks crazy so far. Really cool. All right, I'm going to grab that fire orange. I need to do a punt fake filing of my taxes tonight, and then I'm going to amend it immediately afterwards. But I opened a new bank account, and so I would prefer to get any deposits there, so I just need to send one in that I can amend.
Are we thinning this fire orange down to?
I thinned it not really to a wash, but enough to where it will sort of run into the recesses, but I can still actually like stipple with it and do texture stuff.
Okay.
So kind, it's kind of like our really like our normal paint consistency. Yeah, sibling, my dad has done accounting stuff for his entire life, and so he always helps me out. But yeah, I need to I still need to go through and pull like as many receipts as I can. Like luckily, all of the business expenses and stuff that I buy all the time is always online. So other than maybe a few like less than $100 worth of purchases I could write off, right? Are usually recorded online. So I just have to go through and pull purchases, things like that, which can take a while. But like I said, I just need to give them something so that that way all of my new info is updated because I'd rather them not try and send a deposit somewhere, an old address, anything like that, which has happened. So okay, so I've got that in there. Now I'm going to go back with Tempest Gray over like the top edges to kind of like make the metal show back through. And then I'll get some white on the palette as well to do like brighter reflections on top of that Tempest Gray. And then that should be good. I don't know how much I'm going to actually do. I just am prepared for it, if that makes sense. But thanks for hanging out with us today again. I am with famous Patreon student Stuart.
I'm not that famous.
as we work on our big Vulcans here. Gotten a lot done. I mean, this was all done over the last 2 hours, so this is as close to a really impressive single session mini as you can pretty much get. So especially for doing a giant armored whatever completely in non-metallic metal. So initially, and what's funny too, right? So I mean, initially when Stuart and I kind of talked about this miniature, I was like, yeah, we can just do metallic paint and then tint it like crazy, because we did a dragon similar to that and tinted it with like clear paints through the airbrush, and that was really fun just because of how awesome it looked. It looked very, just crazy.
That dragon.
Yeah, it looks so good. But what's interesting Yeah, trash. So they actually lost my first stimulus check in the mail, and they confirmed it. So that $600 is gone. I now no longer get $600. I only get a tax credit. So, but what's funny is we probably would have spent, right, the exact same amount of time going back and adding colors to the metallic and everything like that, similar to what we've already done. So, you know, I don't know if it's necessarily just because we've done this a few times already, right? Like larger. Well, I don't know. Is this the most non-metallic metal we've done? I
No, did the bus.
right, but I mean,
Square footage, no.
right.
Complexity, yes.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, so far as edges and turns, yes.
Yeah, because I feel like this one's definitely the most involved one we've done. All right, so I'm just gonna take a really light gray to do like little dots. Little dots. This brush I'm using is so beat. Cool. And yeah, so the idea currently that so like the game plan for the finishing portion of the paint job, everything has at least been hit with whatever color tint right should be there. On the blue side of the miniature, any of the base colors for the non-metallic metal gold that we have was already washed in a purple wash, right? So it's already sort of got that tint that we need. So we don't really have to worry too much. But all the other details now are more intensified. Then highlighting everything up to just sort of like normal levels, like we're doing with the chains, will be what we do for the gold and then the rest of the silver, the fur, everything like that. And then as a finishing touch, we'll go back with 3 or 4 colors for our tinting. So a little bit of green, a little bit of magenta, a little bit of purple, right? And we'll just go through in different little spots here and there. And then that will actually tint our brightest highlights and everything around it. And then that's what will really bring it to that, like, really colorful, crazy armor atmosphere that we're kind of building. But I think that first color we went back through and airbrushed really made a difference, right? The one that's like a little bit peachy.
Mm-hmm.
Because now, right, especially the effect is way more noticeable on the blue side, I would say, right? Because it's obviously a competing color. But on like the blue side of the miniature on the shoulder there, it creates just such a sharper contrast than us like doing a pastel-y tone. So I really think it definitely made a bigger difference going back through with that color.
I did a real oblique shot from the underside to pick up the underside of those armor plates.
Yeah.
And it really looks good.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't seen. I don't. You haven't sent me any progress shots today, right?
Let me send you some.
I'm going back with a little bit of a dark auburn shadowy deep kind of wash here just to do the edges where the chain, like the bottom side of the chain, so that there's more shadow. If you are interested in this miniature, like I said, it is on the website. Someone asked what size this was printed at. This is just the regular size. He's a big boy. He's not hollow or anything either. He's solid as a rock. Oh, here we go. Oh, yeah, look at that. That looks good. Wait. Oh, right. Okay.
Opinion?
So like right here, hold on, I'm screenshotting and annotating. So there should be some of the color, the airbrush color in the areas I'm about to send you that are circled. And on the front.
Okay.
Because see, mine on the front, on the shoulders, like in the armpit area, you can see those tints on the front and the back. So that's the only.
Half up is what I didn't do.
Yeah, that's the only real difference that we're looking at there, is that you just didn't go as high.
Okay.
But yeah. All right, so we're doing this Saturday morning.
Yeah, I gotta drop her off at 10, so maybe about 11. I'll call you when I'm on the road back.
Okay.
About what time?
Okay, let me write this down, and then I'll bump back the Patreon, so that way I'm not immediately jumping off with you to that. So
11 to 1.
yeah, we'll just do Patreon 2 to 4. Okay. All right, cool. Well, everyone watching, this will be done, so I'll show you all photos of this, and then I'm not sure what our Patreon class is this weekend. I'll have to double check, but I know it should be fun. Definitely, if you are interested, as always, please, on my hands and knees, I beg you, check out patreon.com/minipaintingstudio. At this point now, there's over 80 hours of content waiting for you the second you sign up. And then on top of that, let's see. Okay, so March 13th is Cold Palette. So we're going to be painting a female warrior. She looks like a barbarian, kind of Viking-ish. And we'll be doing her in like cool tones to make her seem like she lives in a cold environment. So that is this weekend. And then March 27th is Color Theory. And it is a Reapercon miniature Captain Black in Odo. He's a dodo, I believe. Odo the Dodo. And we'll be doing crazy color work on that too. So that is the Scholar Plus paint along this month. So definitely check that out. April, we've got Mutant Skin and Advanced Cloth. May, we've got OSL Basics and Warm Palette. And then that is it. We always plan our stuff out 6 months at a time. Actually, what I'm planning on doing is planning out 2 months ahead. So in April, we will be planning for June. And then that's when we'll start doing 3D printed sculpts from that point forward. So, but that is pretty much it. So, Stuart, thanks for gracing everyone with the stream today.
Thank you.
And then I will see you on Saturday, and I will see everybody else Saturday as well for Patreon. So if I don't stream tomorrow, I might end up streaming tomorrow too. So I don't think we finished. Yeah, I was working on this RNE sculpt as well. I was doing the blades, so maybe I'll finish up this guy, and then I want to start this big 200% size Goblin Merchant. I think we can have fun painting him up. So, but that's it.